Entered as an organizer and may now speak to any other organizers or panelists on the line. When you are ready to begin the presentation, press the Start Broadcast button on the GoToWebinar control panel to allow all attendees to hear you. This system will notify you once you begin your broadcast. The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hey, hi, a very good afternoon. Thank you for having taken the time to join me in today's session. This is Jay, product expert from the AD Solutions team here at Manage Engine. So, first things first, before we get into today's presentation, a quick audio and video check. If you can see my screen loud and clear, and if you can hear my audio clearly, you can make use of the chat to let me know the same. A quick audio and video check. If you can hear me loud and clear, and if you can see my screen clearly, you can tell me the same through the chat. A quick audio video check. If you can hear my screen, if you can see my screen, and if you can hear me as well. All right, wonderful. Thank you so much for the confirmation, guys. We are good to go, and this is the fifth day in the 5-day workshop series, which is the very last session for the AD Manager Plus training that we've been doing through the last 2 weeks. All right, so today we'll be talking about the most critical of all the management actions that we were performing through AD Manager Plus. Today's session is going to be on automation of all those critical Active Directory routines. So when I say critical Active Directory routines, it's going to be an automation of all those tasks that we were performing through the last 2 weeks, which is last week and this week. We'll be talking about the user provisioning process. We'll be talking about the user deprovisioning process, and yes, definitely a few other modifications as well that we did through the AD Manager Plus application. But this time around, the only difference is going to be that it's going to be completely automated. All right. The recap for what we've been discussing so far. So we started off with identity provisioning. We understood as to how the product can help you really simplify the whole process of user onboarding. We saw how smart templates can make your life a lot easier. We saw how the smart templates had the provision to, hold data prior to the actual process of execution and ensure that the simplification is at the very start. When I say it's all you had to do was just pick the template, and every other attribute in Active Directory, all those important ones, got filled all by themselves. So that was the user provisioning module. We went further to talk about the user modification, where we saw how a centralized system could help you manage users, not just their Active Directory, but also their Office 365 licenses, their Exchange mailboxes, and whatnot. We were talking about reprovisioning accounts or restoring accounts that were deleted. Yes. The third session was on Active Directory reporting. When it came to reporting, we understood that there are close to 200 plus out of the box reports, and all these reports make your work a lot easy. Why do I say a lot easy? Because one, all these reports are pre-packaged inside the product, all right, and number two, you necessarily need not write complex PowerShell scripts to actually run these reports. All that you have to do is just select your right report based on the use case that you're discussing and run the reports, and also at the same time perform your Active Directory management actions from the reports or from within the reports. Yes, so that is one exclusive and useful feature that everybody would want. And as a matter of fact, we also went on to discuss as to how to build custom reports. When I say custom reports that are handmade for your very own requirement, that are tailor made for your very own requirement. That was about reports. And last session, which was yesterday, we were talking about Active Directory delegation and Active Directory workflow, two other important administrative level functionalities when it comes to the AD Manager Plus product. We were talking about how the AD delegation is not so user friendly when it comes to doing it through the domain control wizard or the wizard of delegation, DOC. All right, we were talking about how to get the same task done through the AD Manager Plus application, and we saw how the AD Manager Plus application helped you do a non-invasive delegation, a non-invasive delegation based on roles, a delegation that gave you control over who got what access, and definitely yes, workflow where we saw the multiple level approach to workflow, the ticketing system that we had, the request, review, and approval system that we have. And today's session is going to be the last session. So in case if any of you have any queries coming up during today's session, or have any queries for any of the sessions that were discussed before, you can always feel free to shoot your questions right at me, and I take the questions then and there. Just in case if I miss out, we've got a dedicated session for Q&A. The last 10 minutes of today's workshop is going to be for Q&A that you have. If you want me to probably demonstrate any specific activity, I can do that as well. All right, so that being said, the agenda for the day is laid right there. It's straightforward. We'll start off automating user onboarding. We'll go further to automate cleanup in Active Directory, and then we'll also talk about modification, especially group membership modification that can be automated, and other critical Active Directory tasks. There might be a few in your mind, or few for your environment. We can automate that as well. And finally, we'll also be talking about the applications that we have, the iOS and the Android applications that we have. All right, so that's pretty much going to be the agenda for today's session. All of this related to automating those critical tasks in your Active Directory. So we've already seen enough as to what the disadvantages of the native tools are, the way that they can't help you do tasks in bulk, the way that they don't give you clarity, the way there's no granularity and all that. We also discussed enough about how difficult it is to, master the art of writing PowerShell scripts, undergoing training to get your simple AD management tasks done. So why to put ourselves through all this? Why to have you create users or modify them through the native way? Or why to toggle between multiple applications to get your tasks done? Instead, yesterday we were talking about workflow, where the whole process of user onboarding on any other Active Directory process could be simplified with a requester, a dashboard, an approval, and the actual incorporation taking place in Active Directory. That's what we discussed yesterday. We were also talking about granting users access to a dashboard to make requests. Requests look like the screenshot that I've got right here on this slide. And then we were discussing about the 360-degree user provisioning templates, the ones that are going to help you simplify the whole process of onboarding, where the attributes are pre-filled just so that the process is streamlined. And then we were talking about permissions management, simplifying the whole process of assigning permissions to folders, making it time-based. Yes, the most important ones are the integrations that we are working on. So AD Manager Plus, as a matter of fact, isn't growing just breadth-wise and adding more functionality, but also it's going depth-wise, giving you access to more features in all these integrations that we're talking about. And automation, as a matter of fact, would be a part of the integrations that we are doing with the databases as well. So if you're planning to get your onboarding done automatically with reference to your Oracle database or your MS SQL database that you use for your HR MS or HR database, you can very well go on and automate the user onboarding there as well. So we've got the integrations in the picture. All right, I'll walk you through the integration message as well, and then the most important one, which is complete Active Directory automation. The first task that we'll be discussing for the day is user onboarding. So when it comes to user onboarding, we already know the usual flow. Your IT uh, services management tool is used to make a request. Your end users, be it your HR, be it your line manager, make requests for an Active Directory action. You get into Active Directory, get going with the user creation process, get into other applications, and then perform the same thing over and over again. So manually doing it does come with a lot of challenges. One, the amount of work that you have to do. Number two, the errors that could probably creep in because you're doing it manually. So to get rid of all that, to get rid of the usual flow that we perform or that we follow for user provisioning and keep it straightforward, simple, and automated, all that the HR's got to do is just to fill out a simple CSV file with the basic attributes of the user, and the automation module in the product is going to do the hard work of pulling all the data from the CSV file and getting back to the product, creating the user in Active Directory, applying the corresponding templates that are mapped in the CSV file, create accounts in Active Directory, accounts in mailboxes, and also create accounts in Google Apps. So the whole process is streamlined because it's automated. And number two, the whole process gets not just completely automated. In case if you want to oversee the process, that can be done as well. I'll let you know as to what exactly I'm talking about in a while. So for the automation module in the product to be functional, you will need a logic that operates in the background that defines what set of actions have to be automated or what set of actions happen after one another. So we call them the automation policy. And in the automation policy, you get to define the exact same logic for the automation as to what's got to happen after what. So without any delay, let me quickly get on the product and start with today's demonstration. All right, so we are familiar with the AD Manager Plus application, the dashboard view that will give you a quick overview on what's the status in your organization. You want to perform management actions? Yes, feel free. Click the corresponding report or the dash view that you've got and get to the corresponding report and start performing actions. So that's the dashboard view. Through the session, we were discussing about the AD Management tab, which is the first tab in the product, where we saw how user provisioning can be done or user onboarding can be done through the user creation templates. We were talking about user modification. Again, very similar to the first stage, but the only change is the modification templates are going to help you perform role changes, department changes, group modifications, and all that. Even in today's presentation for automation, we will be making extensive use of the user creation templates for onboarding, and for group modification, we'll be using the user modification templates. Likewise, there were a few more actions that we saw: deprovisioning, reprovisioning accounts, restoring accounts, and all that. Yes, during the AD reporting session, we saw how the product has reports under different categories. One's for the log on, log off reports, the inactive users report. Yes, we also went on to discuss about the security reports that the product has, the custom report functionality that can be used to your advantage. Yesterday and day before, we were talking about AD delegation and workflow, and today it's going to be about the automation module, the last and most useful and important module of the product. So, automation happening through AD Manager Plus. What is the fundamental logic that drives the automation for your Active Directory management? In simple, the product is structured in such a way that there is a logic that needs to be at the back of any automation task that's running. When I say logic, it could be of two types. It could be a single level logic, or it could be a multiple level logic. All right. For operations like user onboarding, where it wouldn't really require much of a steps, it's just a one-time thing and a one-step process. You define the users who are to be onboarded, you onboard them, that's all. So you can go on and straightly create or directly create your automation from the scheduled automation module. You can create a new automation. For processes that are a little complex, that are multi-step, so when it comes to Active Directory cleanup, I have a policy this time and not a task like just create users. I have a policy that says deprovisioning policy. So the deprovisioning policy will hold the data or the logic as to what has to happen after what. All right. So this is a quick overview. The automations can be scheduled to run at your convenient time. It could be run on a hourly basis, weekly basis, daily basis, so on and so forth as to your convenience. You can have the criteria set, the request type is mapped, and yes, the description will also give you a overview. So I've created a few automations right here, close to 10 for your reference. I'll be walking you through one after the other. I'll be taking all those important automations. So to start with, I'm going to go ahead and walk you through the user onboarding automation that I've created. All right. So what is the usual process? Even if you do it through AD Manager Plus, if you're doing a bulk operation for user onboarding, you'll need a CSV file. So with the CSV file from the AD management module, you'll do a bulk user provisioning. When I get into the automation for user onboarding, the first thing that I notice is the automation category is already defined as user automation. And what are the other categories that are available? There are categories for computer automation, there are categories for group and contact automation as well. So the category that I've picked is user automation. The task that is selected is obvious, user creation. You can also see that there are multiple other tasks that can be performed. And there's also a provision for selecting automation policies. But this time around, since we are dealing with a straightforward task, which is just creation of users, I'm going ahead with create users. So the moment I do create users, the product fetches me templates that are available in the user creation module. All right. So I've got all my templates, the ones that we described and the ones that we built few weeks back. Yes. So we've got all of that in place. So here the user provisioning template that I'm going ahead with is the default template, which is the 360-degree user provisioning template. So for the automation to be functional, first the category has to be mentioned or specified. The task has to be picked. The source from which the automation has to run should be specified. So from where does the product figure out who has to be provisioned? A CSV file has to be maintained in a common location that's accessible by the HR in such a way that all that the HR's got to do is figure out and key in the basic attributes right here. Just a quick moment. I have a folder called as new joinees, and this is accessible by the HR. The folder is the new joinees, and the CSV file is the automated user provisioning for the HR. So when I open up this simple CSV file, I'm able to see that there are multiple names right here, the first names, last names, and yes, the corresponding department names as well. So here, if the HR wants to onboard a new user today, all right, let's say Andrew Jerome, that's the new user, to be onboarded to the IT department. All that the HR's got to do is just make this one simple small entry, and when the automation runs in the background, scheduled to be run at 10 in the morning, 10:15 in the morning, automatically it fetches the data from this CSV file and creates the user in Active Directory. So a CSV file is what that the HR has to handle, a simple CSV file. The automation module picks up the data from the CSV file, creates account in Active Directory with accounts across all these platforms, Office 365, Exchange, Google Apps, and all of that. All right. So we've been talking about a simple automation process for user onboarding. All right, what's more to this specific process? When I say more options, I'm able to see that instead of doing CSV as the source, I can very well have the MS SQL database or the Oracle database as the source as well. So once the configuration is done through the admin tab for the Oracle DB or the MS SQL DB or HR databases, what happens is you can very well import current records from your Active Directory and current records from your database and then have them created as users in Active Directory. So the whole process is simple because you get to specify from which table should the product look up for the values and then have it created as users in Active Directory. So that is a very big advantage when it comes to saving a lot of time, since your HRMS is going to be directly bundled with your application, which is your Oracle or your MS SQL server. There could possibly be nothing that could go wrong. All right, everything is going to be streamlined for you. The next thing is the frequency at which that this specific automation runs. So you can have it to be scheduled on a hourly basis, daily basis, depends upon your requirements. So if it's just going to happen once in a week, all right, you can specify weekly and say which day. So if your onboarding regularly happens on the first day of the week, you can say Monday, and you can say probably 11 o'clock. So the new joinees have been inducted, the onboarding process is over, and the HR by morning should have also filled out this basic CSV file. By the time the employees are ready for work, their accounts would have been provisioned across all the platforms because the automation must have run on time, picked up the data from the HRMS software or from the CSV file that the HR had filled out, onboarded users to their corresponding departments with their respective attributes and accesses thanks to the user creation templates. Since the policy that was selected or task that was selected was creation of users and the category was user automation, everything is going to go effortless. Everything is going to happen in the background. So the whole process of automation of user onboarding simplified in under one simple console. All right, so that is how you automate user provisioning. So there's a lot more to user automation or provisioning when you pick the right template or when you assign the right template, because we've already gone through a session where we saw how user creation templates can help you define the accesses that an employee has, the organization unit to which an employee should belong to, the group membership that has to be assigned to the user, the log on log off timing, the password related properties, exchange mailboxes, Office 365 licenses being assigned, and all of that. In case if anybody missed that session, no worries, just drop me a message right now and I can have the video of that specific session sent over. The most crucial part of user onboarding is getting the templates right and scheduling the automation. All right, so that is the first automation task for the day: user provisioning or user onboarding, simplified with a CSV import, an automated CSV import or automated data import from a HR database. All right, so that is the first task. The next task that we will be discussing is cleanup. Another big challenge in organizations is to keep track of all those inactive users and have them removed off your Active Directory right on time. The problem is keeping track is a monumental challenge. One, these users can serve to be a easy backdoor for all those attackers and hackers to get into your Active Directory and mess around. And two, like we already know, an organization's security is only as strong as its weakest link, which is the inactive user. So we can never afford to have inactive users, waiting right there, lying in my Active Directory or your Active Directory for a long time. So you can have automation policies that are going to ensure that the inactive users are deprovisioned or disabled and deleted from your Active Directory completely. So since many organizations are not really big fans of deprovisioning happening in one single step, all right, the deprovisioning process can be a multi-step approach. We can take a multi-step approach. What do I mean when I say multi-step? A automation policy. I've got a new policy created. You can create a new policy by clicking on this. I've got one created for your convenience. It's called the deprovisioning policy. So when I get into the deprovisioning policy, again this time around it's an user automation. All right, so what do we have right here? I've got two categories of tasks. The first one is the instant tasks that have to be triggered when a condition is met. The next one is the successive tasks or the series of tasks that have to take place after the instantaneous tasks, and as a matter of fact at my convenient time interval. So after 15 days I'd want the product to perform a specific task. After 30 days, I'd want the product to perform another task. So this is the beauty of the automation policy. So they're going to help you automate a specific activity or a series of tasks, and you can determine as to which task has to be executed after what at what point in time. So we are talking about automation policy for deprovisioning users. It's an user automation, the category. The instant task is to move the users or quarantine these users. That's the first thing. So the moment I've found out that the users have become inactive and they've been inactive for quite some time, that's my condition. Say for example, users being inactive for the last 6 months, I'd want to initiate a cleanup for those accounts. I can do a cleanup by starting to move these accounts to a OU, a separate OU, and then removing all their group membership or clear all their existing group membership. Going further, say for example, after 2 weeks or 15 days, I can have their accounts completely disabled, have their mailboxes deleted, and definitely a lot more. If you're wondering if these are certain basic actions, not really. You can go on and have other tasks added as well. So I'd want to remove probably the Office 365 licenses associated with those accounts. I want to do a complete removal of all those accounts after 15 days, and then I'd want to do some other task from the list that's available. So we can see that there are options for moving the users, removing their licenses, disabling their link, and a lot more can be selected from the list. You can in fact run a custom script that could be very useful in many instances. So those inactive accounts, before they are deleted, you can run custom scripts and remove all those associated application accounts or logon scripts or any action, as a matter of fact, that can be run with a custom script coupled with the deprovisioning. Yes, so that's something that's interesting. And after 30 days, you can say delete the user completely. So after 1 month of time, you get to delete the user. So basically, you can add as many number of task groups that you want. So task groups are going to be a series of parallel tasks that happen at a set point in time. All right, or you can have more successive tasks to a specific task group. So the options are unlimited. You can go on and customize the automation policy to have just instant tasks. So all of this has to happen parallelly. If that is your requirement, you can do all of them as instant tasks. You want them to be successive after time intervals? Yes, that can also be done. So all you have to do is just get into the automation, play around, and find out how you can customize the automation for your requirement. All right, so we've been talking about an automation policy for deprovisioning user accounts. Quickly getting into it one more time so that you get a better picture. So this is an automation for the user deprovisioning. The process has both instantaneous tasks and successive tasks. The instantaneous tasks perform two important activities: moving them or quarantining them, and removing the group membership. The successive tasks right here help me disable them, delete their mailboxes, and yes, definitely delete the user as well. So now you must be wondering as to how all of this gets triggered, or what is the start point. All right, how does the product know that a user has to be deleted? So that's the beauty. So what can be done again is we can get back to the automation module or the automation tasks and schedule an automation. So all along, when we were discussing about the automation policy, the automation policy is just the logic as to what has to happen after what. The automation schedule is where you get to configure the actual functionality or the actual task. So I have one that says Active Directory cleanup right here, and I'm able to see that it runs monthly once. To find out all those inactive users, apply the deprovisioning policy on the inactive users for the purpose of removing all those stale user objects that have been stale for more than 180 days. So it's a complete automation that we're talking about. Just in case if you're wondering if there's a provision to create automations and run them at that very moment or run them at your convenience, you can always say run now and initiate an automation to happen at that very moment when it's required. All right, so here we're talking about Active Directory cleanup. Yes, I've already got an automation in place. We already discussed the automation policy or the deprovisioning policy for this process. So that is going to be the logic behind this specific automation task, Active Directory cleanup. So getting into the Active Directory cleanup module, we are able to see again, this is a user automation, pretty obvious, and this is for removing those users who've been inactive for the last 180 days. This time, instead of having chosen a task, instead of directly saying, just like how I said create users last time, I could have very well said just delete users and got done with the process. But then deprovisioning is not just about deletion of users, it has a lot more to it. So that's the reason why I had to create a very custom automation policy for deprovisioning my users, which is the deprovision policy. So I've selected that as well. All right, so the policy is in place, the category of the automation is selected. Now I'll have to help my product figure out who are the inactive users. How do I do that? I can go on and select a report. Since the product works in tandem, all these modules in the product, be it reporting, be it automation, delegation, all the modules work together hand in hand. Yes, I can very well go on and select a existing report and fetch users from the report data that I have. So here my condition is to find out inactive users. And do I have a report for inactive users? Absolutely. So from the logon reports category, I can very well go on and pick the inactive users report. There are other reports for recently logged on users, enabled users, disabled users, and all that. So I'm going to go ahead and say inactive users who've been not active for the last 180 days or 6 months. I can exclude those disabled users and never logged on users as well. So I can have conditions set right there. If I want more conditions in place, I just want to find out those inactive users who are a part of my sales department. I can say add condition. I can say the department to which they are a part of, or pick any of the other conditions that I have, right? All the conditions that are available for your picking. Yes, any such attribute. So here the department is the attribute belonging to the sales department. Selecting the sales department, and my second filter is in place. So users who've been inactive from the sales department for the last 180 days, and more conditions can be set as well. So the report is going to get generated in the background, and the product is going to quickly fetch the user's value and deprovision them, or start deprovisioning them based on the policy that's set. All right, again, just like the previous case, there is provision for a lot more. You can also very well have a CSV file and keep it super simple. Just fill out a CSV file with those users whose accounts have to be removed, and yes, all those accounts mentioned in the CSV file are going to be manually triggered for deprovisioning. Again, just like creation, any automation can be set for your execution as per your requirement. Any timeline that you want, you can do it weekly, you can do it monthly. Many organizations prefer to do a cleanup on a monthly basis, preferably on the last working day of the month, or probably the last weekend of the month, just so that there's no load it takes up. All right, so we've got the automation configured for the last day of the month after business working hours. Yes, so that is configured that way. And as a matter of fact, since automations are kind of critical and they happen all by themselves, it's important that you stay updated as to what's the scenario, or you stay updated as to what is happening when it comes to automation. So you can have notifications enabled, and from the notification templates that we have, you can configure the notification templates per your requirement. You want to get notified through SMS, email, you can select the notification templates that are available at this point in time and choose to get notified for an action that's happening through automation. All right, or create your very personalized template for automation, completely up to you. A personalized notification template, I'm saying, a template that can hold the data of the task that is happening, automation name, the summary of the automation, the account that was modified, the technician that had performed, the time, and all of that can be done through the notification profiles that we have. So what we're talking about is a holistic approach towards Active Directory management. Not just automate things, but also stay on top of the whole system. Know what exactly is happening at what point in time. What are the list of actions that are happening after one after the other. So the whole process can be configured and can be put to use as per your requirement. All right. So there's one more interesting feature when it comes to automation. So we were talking about workflow yesterday. For those of you administrators who are OCD about making automations completely automatic, you can always implement the business workflow. The business workflow right here is going to help you, do a check or a double check before the automation actually gets executed. You'd get notified saying that there's an automation scheduled. This is the task that's going to be performed, and if you're okay with it and if you approve through the workflow module that we were discussing yesterday, then the automation gets triggered or the Active Directory action gets performed in your AD or incorporated in Active Directory. All right. So it's a straightforward process with a filter again as per your requirements. So you can be under complete control, or you know how to get things done the way you want them to be done. You can implement the workflow and get going with the automation. So that would be the automatic user deprovisioning or cleanup. Again, a quick recap on what we saw so far. The automation module lets you configure tasks that you'd want to be automated. It can be user onboarding, it can be user deprovisioning. When it comes to onboarding, you can specify the list of actions or the users who have to be created in a CSV file, or you can import the data from a HR database. The benefit of this process is it's a single step process. You can directly select the task and get going. When it comes to a multi-level process like deprovisioning, where you'll need to do a series of tasks, you can have a policy configured or the logic configured for the deprovisioning and have it coupled to a automation task that's supposed to be running at a specific point in time, removing inactive users. All right. So now if you're wondering, is it possible to edit an automation after you've done it? Yes, absolutely possible. You can just say edit and get into the details of it, change or alter any of those policies, tasks, up to you, completely up to you. So this is the automation task. All right. And if you choose to check the history of automation, you want to see when exactly did the automation run last time. You want to keep a track of things. Yes, we've got the history as well. So here I have the execution history. So the list of automations that were performed and when exactly they were performed. So here we've got all those actions that have happened so far. When did this template or when did this specific automation run? So this gives me control over the auditing as well. All right. If in case you're wondering if the automation module is struck, yes, again, under the delegation audit reports that we were discussing yesterday, you will be able to see which action was performed through the automation module. So you can get into AD delegation. So under AD delegation, the audit reports are going to give you a clear picture as to what exactly happened, be it through the automation module, be it through any other workflow or through an integration that we have. All of that is listed for you right there in place so that you can get to understand as to what was the origination or what was the source of a specific task. So here we've got user automation. So I have a automation that's running daily for managing user photos. If I want to update a new user's photo, I can automatically set an automation that fetches data for a new user and gets their profile picture updated right after they're onboarded. So it could simplify the whole process of user provisioning, modification, and whatnot, even permissions management or for that matter, group membership management. All right, I'm getting back to the automations so you can have track through the audit reports. Okay, Let us quickly discuss a few more cases before we get to the question and answer session. So automations can be also set up for your specific requirements. Let's say that you want to configure your product to or configure all user accounts to have a logon script. You can quickly key in an automation, specify the logon script, select the logon script from a template that's available, say a template or define a template and apply it across all users in a specific time. Yes, so I'm going to quickly open that up for you and show you how exactly it looks. So here it's a user modification task, and the task that I want to perform is the modification of users by template. The template that has to be applied is the add logon scripts. Again, this is going to be a modification template under the AD management tab. I've got the template configured with the new logon script. I want this to run early in the morning before everybody comes to office, so that everybody's got the logon script in place. So I'd want this to run at 8 a.m. in the morning, and all user accounts are going to get this specific logon script. I can very well go on and avail a report, or I can import users from a CSV file. All right, so it's pretty simple and straightforward. So there are more such tasks that can be performed. What if I want to update the user's photo? That's something that we were discussing a while back. So user's photo in Active Directory can be updated. The thumbnail attribute can be updated. What I'll have to do is I'll have to just intermit the product as to pick the photo from a specific location and update it to all those user accounts. So if there are new joinees in my organization, all right, I can schedule an automation that could automatically update the new joinees photo after the onboarding is done. So if my onboarding usually happens around 11 o'clock, I can make sure that this runs probably at say afternoon, all right, and it can pick all the recently created users, select all their folders or photos, and have it applied to their accounts. So the list of actions that can be performed are endless. Almost every important management action that you would want to perform, even in terms of security related aspects. In case you want to grant just in time access, you'd want to grant access to specific groups, or you'd want to remove access for those specific groups after a set point in time. You can do a just in time vendor access. It could be for your external vendors, or it could be granting privileged just in time access to your users. So the time summary says 5 hours. You can add users to your groups and get them removed from groups as and when you want. All right, so I'm going to quickly open up the last policy, which is the group membership management policy that I have, a just in time management policy. So here I've got a policy for automated just in time privileged access. If a user becomes a part of a specific group, if that's the criteria that I want to meet, so I can add them to a group of all those critical access control groups or your administrative level groups, and after 5 hours of time I can also remove them from the group and clear off their permissions. So this is really helpful when it comes to your day-to-day business management. So organizations face the biggest problem of keeping track of who was given what group membership access and then revoking it on time. So when you configure this automation, you can do a weekly or a hourly automation, or a daily or an hourly automation. Here, I'd want this to work for a day. So after one day, the users are automatically going to be removed from the specific group. All right. Again, it could be a lot more complex. You can have more tasks configured at the same time. It's not just addition to group membership. All right, I can also perform other tasks. I can assign Office 365 licenses. I can disable licenses on the go. So just in time privileged access is going to be super helpful when you want your users to have just in time access for a specific group, set of groups. So here I've selected all those critical groups, just these critical groups, and that too for a span of time, something like 5 hours. You can say 5 hours and update the specific automation policy. And when it comes back to the automation task, you can have a task configured for this automation policy right here. So I've got a privileged access policy right here, and it's going to run for all those users in a specific group. So if you move users to a specific group that has all those critical just in time. I have a specific group called as automated just in time groups, users in a specific group, and I can get in the group and say which it's gotta be. So I have a temporary privileged access group. So any user who becomes a part of this temporary privileged access group will be added to all those other groups that I had shown, and also be removed from those groups after that 5 hours time span. And you can do this on a hourly basis. You can say when it has to run, so execution time of the automation. All right, and again, just ensure that you enable the notification so that you stay informed. All right, so getting back to the automation, I'll show you a few more automations before I wrap the automation part of it. So we've got one day on demand access, very similar, granting access to file servers for a specific day, automating group membership management, which is a very useful case. So I have a policy for group membership update. When a specific user is transferred to a department, let's say a user moves from the marketing department to the sales department, that is my situation. All right, group membership update, auto group membership update. So here my users get moved from the marketing department to the sales department. I can modify users based on a template, and I can customize the instant task that has to happen. And we've already discussed that the templates can hold rules, modification rules that have conditions and values that have to be assigned. So when the conditions are met, the values are going to be assigned for the groups. All right, so here the group membership management action, the last one was the policy that I had showed you. The action right here is a user automation task, group membership update from a specific folder or from a list of CSV file. You can do the update and schedule it to run at your convenience. What happens is, in the background, the automation is going to find out what is the condition and which criteria is met, and then assign group membership correspondingly. Just a pictorial representation of what I've been talking so far. So user creation, a CSV file gets imported with all those user data, and accounts get provisioned across all these platforms. User modification, when it comes to group membership, a CSV file with the basic attributes, and when the conditions are evaluated and met. So if title is manager, corresponding group memberships are altered. If the department is marketing, again, corresponding membership to groups are added. So pretty simple, straightforward, and all of this can be automated. Likewise, cleanup, which demands a multi-step automation or an automation policy to be in place, happens in such a way that all your inactive users who've been inactive for a specific set span of time get disabled, moved, and finally deleted across all the platforms, and your active directory is intact and well protected. All right, so the automation module is not just going to save you tremendous time, but also is going to ensure that your whole process of user lifecycle management is streamlined. So all this long we've been trying to understand and achieve user lifecycle management or get it streamlined, and today's session is going to be the one that could actually help you get that done at your convenience. So you can go on, configure as many number of automations that you want, no restrictions to it. And when it comes to creation of an automation, you have multiple categories. I'm going to quickly get into create a new automation and show you what categories are available. So we've got automations for user provisioning or user modification, one's for computer automation, one's for group and contact automation. So when I say user automation, the tasks that are going to be capable to be performed or automated are listed right here. All these tasks can be performed. So when I say group automation, the list of tasks dynamically change. Only those group related automation tasks pop up. Likewise, when I say computer automation, for cleaning up a stale computer account, I can go on and have those accounts deleted. I can do that. So these are computer automations and tasks and policies. And at any given point in time, I can choose data from those reports that are available. So since it's an automation for computers, all those computer related reports pop up. So if I have a requirement, if I want to remove all those inactive computers, I can say the inactive computers report. I can specify the timeline. So the computers that have been inactive for the last 2 months, I can specify that. I can run a policy get into the list that's available, say delete computers, get going with the option. And here there's a wonderful feature right there that says that this is a deletion process, and since this is a very critical task of deleting computers, it prompts me saying that I haven't chosen the workflow operation. So when the workflow operation is chosen, the deletion does not happen without supervision. So the workflow module, the corresponding technician is going to get intimated before the deletion happens, and post approval the deletion gets incorporated in Active Directory. All right, so this way your Active Directory is going to be under your complete control. You get things automated and you get going with your streamlined Active Directory management. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to quickly walk you through as to how to get your mobile application for AD Manager Plus. You can quickly go on to the Play Store, all right, the Google Play Store, and look up for AD Manager Plus. Just a quick basic search saying AD Manager Plus will get you to this specific page, which is the application page for AD Manager Plus. So from the mobile point of view, we are working on a lot more cool features. We are trying and getting features for user provisioning into the Android application. The iOS application at this point in time already has the user onboarding module to it. We are also trying to bring in the reporting functionalities that are available in AD Manager Plus. So configuring is pretty straightforward, very similar to the domain or your desktop application. So we go on configure, generate reports, perform actions. So we'll be able to see data. You'll be able to perform all these management actions like doing things on the go. You want to reset passwords, you want to unlock accounts for those locked users, you can do that. You want to delete or deprovision accounts, disable them right away, you can do that. Alter group membership, yes, that can be done as well. So the list is going to get extended. We are working on more integrations and more functionalities in the application, all right, both for the iOS and the Android application. Yes, as a matter of fact, what we are trying to do is we are trying to incorporate Touch ID for user authentication, two-factor authentication done through a push notification in your product, and a lot more that is in pipeline for you. So stay updated with the Android or the iOS application for AD Manager Plus, and it's going to help you perform your AD management on the go. All right. So that is the application bit of things. So I'm available at the chat right now to take all your questions in case you have any questions pertaining to today's session, or you have questions from the previous session. I'm going to be right here to answer all your questions. In case you want a copy of AD Manager Plus, you don't have one, I'll help you out with the download link as well. So this is Jay. It's been a pleasure bringing you the AD Manager Plus workshop series, the last 5 series. I hope you found this series to be helpful. You have any questions coming up at a later point in time as well, you know who to contact. So I'm always available to help and happy to help as well. Thank you once again for being such a wonderful audience. It was my pleasure.